Hello and welcome to Be the Bank, the very best resource for the secondary mortgage market anywhere you can find on the internet. My name's Robert Hythe, your host, and we're tuning in a little bit late here today because our air conditioner's broke and the electricians were making all sorts of noise outside of the office. So I had to wait until they finished that up. But we are very excited for today's episode. Lessons from Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney. We've got an awesome list of leadership principles from Bob that are all applied really nicely to the note industry. So without further ado, let's jump into today's call with the presentation. All right, everybody. Episode number 47 on July 27th, 2022. As you know, all of these episodes can be reviewed anytime well into the future. We have all this great content to share, so we don't just keep it to today's date. It can be definitely applicable to your note business well into the future if you're watching this video after the fact. And if you want to skip ahead to any part of the call, you can use the time-stamped links down in the bottom to jump ahead to the case studies or any other portion of this episode that appeals most to you. So before we get into the industry update here, we do want to flip through the cameras here, see how our wildlife is doing. Oh, that's me. Of course, we've got our bird cam. No birds, but I do have a filled up with seeds and nuts, and hopefully they'll be coming to say hello. And the koi cam is live. No koi yet at the moment. There's a goldfish up in the corner there. But we'll check back with them over the course of the show here. And of course, let's start with the industry update. So interesting times in real estate in general these days, interesting times in the note world as a consequence of the underlying collateral, the real estate that secures our investment as note holders. So just to go over the high level here, we've got a single family residential market that appears to have peaked. It seems like we are past the peak residential pricing for this cycle of the real estate market at least. And we've been calling this top for a couple of months here. We were a guest on Bill by Mel's Win-Win Revolution show a couple of months ago, and we all sort of came to the consensus that pricing was just about as high as it's ever going to be this time around. So we do see consequently in the non-performing and reperforming mortgage note market less equity, which does seem to affect pricing. Not the biggest driver of price, but definitely an important one to consider. Now on the non-performing loan side, we are seeing loosening supply. As you know from the show, supply has been very, very tight in both the non-performing and the reperforming loan market. And we're seeing some more product come down the pike from these bigger institutional sources to the hedge funds and then to the regular investors who are able to purchase loans through platforms like PaperStack and in the aggregated trade desk for the Mastermind membership. So more product is in the pipeline. That is good news. We do have a new trade that we just released to our Mastermind members, which we'll talk about later on in the call today. Now, on the reperforming side, NPL is non-performing loans and RPL is reperforming loans. We're seeing these passive reperforming loans with condensed yields. We're seeing lower yields for loan investors who are buying cash flowing loans. That means that there's a lot of competition there. These loans are getting bid up, which means less yield for the end buyer. Now, we do have another update that we want to share here that just came out today. Very exciting. Actually, if I had started my call at 1 p.m. when we were scheduled to, we would have missed this. So good thing we've got the mid-year market report from PaperStack. So PaperStack, we actually are an investor in PaperStack. FIXnotes owns a couple percent of the PaperStack platform. So we definitely want to highlight what they've got going on because they're a great marketplace for reviewing loans for sale. And in their 2022 mid-year market report, we're seeing some things that reflect our findings for our own buyers, but other things that are a little bit different, which is nice to see and get a different perspective on. So the first thing, investment to balance. This is really the purchase price. We always talk about cents on the dollar. We talk about the percentage of the unpaid principal balance that we're paying on these loans. And you'll see these 4 different categories: performing first, non-performing first, performing second, and non-performing second. We see that pretty much across the board, we're seeing higher pricing. Now, first liens, the pricing fluctuations are not as extreme. On the performing first lien side, actually, there's been a 2% decrease. I do not see that on my own data, but in this case, their performing pricing went down 2% isn't much. It's definitely remaining pretty stable. On the non-performing side, 12% higher than their last market report, which is at the end of 2021. So this is the 6-month difference. Now, on the performing second lien side, we're seeing 39% higher than previous pricing. 75% is the average price to the UPB for performing seconds, and even higher on the non-performing second, 76% higher pricing than we saw at the end of 2021. Now, an average price of 62 cents on the dollar, 62% of the unpaid principal balance, is what I've experienced in this marketplace for the top quality product. But what we're seeing here is this is the average. Surprisingly, you'll see 137% is the max pricing. And the reason this pricing is over 100% is because non-performing loans can be traded based on the payoff balance. The payoff balance includes arrears and late fees and additional balance that's accumulated above and beyond the UPB. So people have actually paid more than par value is the principal amount, more than the principal amount because of the amount of arrears and past due interest that is owed on those accounts. So really interesting to see this. And I will give you a little spoiler here. The Mastermind assets that we've just listed, our pricing guidance is more like 40 cents on the dollar. So you can definitely get a deal looking at these loans through the Mastermind membership group. Now, what they'll actually sell for is anyone's guess at this point because it is a competitive offering of sorts, but it is going to be significantly lower than 62% if my estimation and predictions here are correct. Now, investment to value, this is the sale price divided the property value. This is more of a critical factor for first liens because, as you know, first position loans tend to resolve through the property more often than through the borrower, where we see on second liens, we're getting workouts done with the homeowner much more of the time. These numbers, though, are hard to quantify in a way that makes sense, only because the unpaid principal balance is the main driver of price, and some assets are secured by millions of dollars worth of real estate, whereas others are secured by tens of thousands or even thousands of dollars worth of real estate. So the fluctuations here can be dramatic, and these percentages don't really tell us that much. Now, obviously, the performing first liens, it's the highest percentage. The non-performing seconds are actually a little higher than the performing second position. But without more data on this, I don't believe that this metric has much value for us to review. And you can see within the ranges that the ranges are pretty large as well. Interesting to see, though, that 15% max is the cap on both ends of this. And that may be because of the loan to value, or rather the combined loan to value for second position loans is pretty consistent. So you're not seeing a principal amount on these junior liens that much exceeds 15% of the property value. Now, sale price is another one that can be so fluctuating based on the assets that are actually available on the platform. But what we're seeing here, 40K is the average price for performing, 18K non-performing, 24K for performing seconds, and 13K for non-performing seconds. Those are pretty reasonable. Another tidbit I'll give you on the portfolio that we are offering for sale to our Mastermind members, the principal average UPB, the average principal balance of these loans is less than $10,000 across these portfolios. So obviously the average price of the assets that we are listing at this time is much less than this. So this really is a function of the size of the loans that are on the platform, and similar to investment to value, you can't draw as many conclusions from this sale price because there's too many variables. There are some interesting things here as far as PaperStack as a platform. This is the assets and the deals that they have available on the platform. You see it skews heavily towards performing loans, heavily towards first position loans. So that leads me to believe that their performing first lien pricing is more accurate than what I understand on the market, because I am way more invested as far as my business in non-performing seconds. That's our niche. Now, we do sell first, and we have performing and non-performing first and seconds. So we have some data there, but since they have 77% seniors and 72% performing, they've got a lot more data on that piece of the business. Mortgage loans versus contract for deeds or land. This is very heavily leaning towards mortgage notes, which makes a lot of sense. I see a lot of investors shying away from the contract for deeds. It's a different play. You definitely want to be located in the same geography as these deals because you're more often ending up with the property. Single assets versus pools, interesting to see. They've got 94% of their loans on their platform being sold as individual assets, which I believe does skew pricing higher. As I mentioned, I think our non-performing second trade will be a lot less than 62%, and that's because we are selling pools of assets. 14 to 15 loans per portfolio. We have 5 portfolios, 2 first liens, and 3 second lien portfolios available now with those lower balance, lower UPB loans, which we'll talk about later in the call. Escrow versus direct to seller. You really want to use escrow when you're working with a platform like PaperStack. This is essentially meaning that there's a third party in between the buyer and the seller to confirm that the documents look good, and we'll see that in a minute, and to confirm that the funds are good funds. There's not any bounce backs or insufficient funds in this case. And this is what I was referring to. Used a collateral auditor. This goes hand in hand with escrow. The funds sit in the escrow account while the collateral auditor advises that the collateral looks good and it's ready to transfer to the buyer. So you see 97% of their deals use a collateral auditor. I think that speaks to the efficiency of the PaperStack system, that they apply the escrow and the collateral audits as part of their process to make it very easy for investors. Only 3% of deals avoid collateral auditors, which honestly, I wouldn't be in that bucket if I were using PaperStack, because you're working with a lot of different counterparties and you want to make sure that their docs are tight. So no comments yet here. I'll be sure to add a comment though, because I love this data and I think it's really important. So let's go on to the next phase of the call here. Well, if we go to back to our industry update screen. So what we've got next for you is our feature, Lessons from Disney, from Bob Iger. He's the previous CEO, and he recently published this memoir after 15 years leading Disney. It's called The Ride of a Lifetime, and it's an exciting story. He really is a great storyteller, as you'd expect from the CEO of a company that has made its money over a lot of time now. I don't know how long Disney's been around, but much longer than I've been. So they're experts in storytelling, and this is the guy who led that initiative for so long. So what I've got today is kind of an interesting setup here. I've got my phone with the audiobook, and I'm going to play a couple excerpts for you as we get into this. And we're going to start with the first lesson, which is optimism. So critical. And maybe you know this from watching my show, but I'm an optimist for sure. And I believe in the amazing things that can come from optimism and having a positive mindset. So let's hear from Bob on this one.
Optimism. One of the most important qualities of a good leader is optimism, a pragmatic enthusiasm for what can be achieved. Even in the face of difficult choices and less than ideal outcomes, an optimistic leader does not yield to pessimism. Simply put, people are not motivated or energized by pessimists. Courage. The foundation.
All right, there's a little spoiler there. The next one is courage. But what we'll see here is that pragmatic enthusiasm for what can be achieved is infectious. It permeates your entire culture and creates this ability, what Steve Jobs was said to have with his leadership of Apple, a reality distortion field. Steve Jobs was able to encourage and motivate his employees to achieve things beyond their wildest dreams because of the optimism and this reality distortion field, that things that were seemingly impossible were indeed achievable for these employees working towards common goals. People are not motivated or energized at all by pessimists. It's definitely an area that can just kill the mood, kill the vibes. You do not want to be a pessimist when you're collaborating with other individuals, even when things get really, really rough. You want to see the silver lining and not see it as a disaster, but as a puzzle that needs to be solved. That's an super important ability of leadership that I think can translate really well into the note business. We work with a lot of different counterparties as note investors, both attorneys and law firms and loan servicers, but also other investors, the people who are funding our deals potentially, our employees and the people that we work with. And all of those interactions can be infused with optimism to encourage the best results out of the people that you work with. And even just for your own benefit, optimism it creates more energy within you. It's really interesting to hear about the studies with regard to medical studies, with regards to placebos and actual drugs, and how the power of the mind is so strong that some placebos you'll see in studies have just as much, if not more effect than the actual drug. So we can apply this in our own lives and in our own businesses to great effect. So as you heard, courage is lesson number 2. So let's jump in and hear what Bob has to say.
Of risk-taking is courage, and in ever-changing, disrupted businesses, risk-taking is essential. Innovation is vital, and true innovation occurs only when people have courage. This is true of acquisitions, investments, and capital allocations, and it particularly applies to creative decisions. Fear of failure destroys creativity.
So you heard it there. Fear of failure destroys creativity. And obviously Disney is in the creativity business. So they have a very deep understanding of the importance of creativity to their bottom line. But in our case, creativity and courage can apply to our note investing careers as well. As we can see, the foundation of risk taking is courage, to have the courage to take the leap of faith. And we take that leap of faith every time we purchase a mortgage note. Risk taking is essential and innovation is vital. If you don't innovate, you die. That is a common understanding in the marketplace in general with capitalism as it is. Now, true innovation occurs only when people have courage, and the fear of failure destroys creativity. Having any culture of fear within your organization is an absolute death sentence for your employees and your counterparties' ability to take the leap of faith and create the real innovation that's required to maximize your success. So courage, I think, can be summed up on the first side as just, making that leap to invest in mortgage notes or to become a member of the Mastermind group. Although there isn't any risk there since we do offer a 100% money back guarantee in the first 30 days. However, that leap of faith is what allows you to put yourself out there to potentially reap the rewards of the courage that you can embody in your decisions. So it's super important in any business and in life in general, of course. All right, so let's jump on to the next lesson here. Focus.
Focus. Allocating time, energy, and resources to the strategies, problems, and projects that are of highest importance and value is extremely important, and it's imperative to communicate your priorities clearly and often.
All right, you heard it from Bob. Focus is so critical. I like to think of focus in terms of getting into the flow state and being able to achieve things at your maximum capabilities. So focus in general is just allocating the time, energy, and resources to the strategies, problems, and projects that are of highest importance. So on one end, focus means identifying what moves the needle. You've heard of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, the 20% of your action that generates 80% of the benefits and productivity of your organization. So identifying that 20% and then maximizing your ability to achieve that can make things happen for your business to move the needle forward. And of course, when you're working with a team, communicating these priorities clearly and often allows your entire team to rally around the principle of focus that you need to take your business to the next level. So really think in terms of what's important to your bottom line as a note investor, or if you're just getting started in this industry, what you need to take your education to the next level. And of course, try whenever you can to get into that flow state to be able to produce the content, to produce the effort that you need to move the needle. So our next lesson here is decisiveness.
All decisions, no matter how difficult, can and should be made in a timely way. Leaders must encourage a diversity of opinion, balanced with the need to make and implement decisions. Chronic indecision is not only inefficient and counterproductive, but it is deeply corrosive to morale.
So similar to courage, decisiveness is critical to take the action that's necessary. Something that happens in the note industry constantly is punting the ball to your counterparty or to an employee, or basically to get the process moving along to the next phase, whether we're talking about a borrower resolution or we're talking about an acquisition and the negotiation that requires to purchase loans for sale. Every step of that process, there'll be decisions, there'll be things that come back to you that need to be sent back out to your counterparties. So the timing that it takes to send a quick email, for example, when you first get a portfolio available for sale, you open that up, you take 5 minutes skimming it over and asking a few questions to your counterparty. That quick decision, that quick action that you take can make all the difference for the counterparty's relationship with you, for their confidence in you as a buyer, and for the end result of that deal, to move things quickly to the next phase, to not leave things lagging and hindering your progress with regards to resolutions, acquisitions, or any aspect of the business. So super important to make a decision, to stick to it, and of course to bring in all of the information that's necessary in order to make that decision accurately. And this is applying, of course, like all of these, to our lives and to our businesses. Decisiveness is absolutely huge.
Curiosity. A deep and abiding curiosity enables the discovery of new people, places, and ideas, as well as an awareness and an understanding of the marketplace and its changing dynamics. The path to innovation begins with curiosity.
Now, we've already talked about how important innovation is, but to get there, as you can see, curiosity is key. Now, Disney is a great example of this because they are constantly innovating and finding ways to tell stories that are engaging and interesting to not only their viewers, but also the people who buy their merchandise and attend the theme parks. And the diversification there is absolutely huge. But as note investors, we are inherently curious. Real estate can have so many different opportunities within it. And the note investing niche is such a small aspect of the note business that if you're not curious, you're probably not watching this video. So I think this is sort of the ticket to entry into the note investing world. You have to be curious enough to take the leap and understand that there is a better way to invest in mortgage notes. So innovation is the flip side of that. And by investing in our technology and our automation, all of that comes from being curious about a better way to do things. So obviously applies very highly to the note world.
Fairness. Strong leadership embodies the fair and decent treatment of people. Empathy is essential, as is accessibility. People committing honest mistakes deserve second chances, and judging people too harshly generates fear and anxiety, which discourage communication and innovation. Nothing is worse to an organization than a culture of fear.
So I did mention this already, that culture of fear is so dangerous to your organization. But fairness is without a doubt one of the most pertinent things on my mind as a note investor when dealing with borrowers. Because this inherent power dynamic between lenders and the borrowers for the loans that we purchase can create some really, really sticky situations that, if you're not careful, can result in some unintended consequences. So the fair and decent treatment of obviously your counterparties, your employees, your investors, the servicers and vendors that you work with is important, and just human decency. But the relationship with your borrowers is even more important because of that intrinsic power dynamic. So we have to be very careful when we're dealing with our borrowers to give them the benefit of the doubt sometimes, to have a bit of tough love, of course, because they do need to make good on their obligations to pay their loans, but to do it in a way that gives some grace and some effort of advising them towards a positive solution. So something that we do as resolution specialists when we're working with non-performing loans is consider the situation a problem to be solved with the borrower's help, not against the borrower, going against the grain. Now, some borrowers, they don't want to keep their properties, and helping them sell their home is what works best for them, or taking a deed in lieu of foreclosure to acquire the property out from under them. It might actually be in their best interest. But in other cases, getting a modification agreement put together, or even a lump sum payoff through a hardship withdrawal from their 401k, for example, all of that requires conversations and a really deep understanding of what they need and how you can help them. And going into a resolution on a non-performing loan with that mindset will yield much better results, eliminate a lot of the risk that you'd have of lawsuits and liability after the fact, but also just the decent thing to do. You'll have a lot more cash flowing loans faster if you treat people right.
Thoughtfulness. Thoughtfulness is one of the most underrated elements of good leadership. It is the process of gaining knowledge so an opinion rendered or a decision made is more credible and more likely to be correct. It's simply about taking the time to develop informed opinions.
So this is really similar to that decisiveness topic, where if you don't have all of the information going into a decision, you're much more likely to make the wrong decision. So having thoughtfulness is the solution to making the correct decisions. Now, I agree with Bob. This is an underrated element of good leadership because it takes so many different forms. It's not only emotional intelligence, but it's also business acumen and the savvy decisions that you can make to beat your competition. So it's kind of this interesting dynamic between being a cutthroat capitalist and being a thoughtful, understanding person. So really interesting in the note business, of course, because there's so many microcosms of this aspect when you look into all of the different relationships that we have to manage as note investors. So take the time, develop an informed opinion, see both sides of an argument. It's really interesting when you're coming up in school and doing things like the debate team, for example, when you have to argue both sides of an issue. So always consider an opposition side of things. Think about all of the different possibilities and don't get stuck within that echo chamber that is so prevalent today based on the algorithms that we're finding on these platforms. So thoughtfulness, more important now than ever.
Authenticity. Be genuine, be honest, don't fake anything. Truth and authenticity breed respect and trust.
Pretty simple one here. Be authentic. This is something that we talk about every single mastermind call. We start off the call talking about our values and the importance of integrity and authenticity as people, as note investors, and as just members of our community. Being genuine, being honest is the only way to have longevity in business. I've been doing now 47 episodes of this show, and I'll tell you right now, it would have started after episode 1 if I was not able to just be myself on this show. So authenticity is so important to building your reputation in any industry. So truth and authenticity breed respect and trust, and that's what establishes solid relationships and the rapport that you need for your reputation to precede you, to get more deals, to get more ability to get things done with the people you work with. So important to have authenticity.
Relentless pursuit of perfection. This doesn't mean perfectionism at all costs, but it does mean a refusal to accept mediocrity or make excuses for something being good enough. If you believe that something can be made better, put in the effort to do it. If you're in the business of making things, be in the business of making things great.
Love that. It's so simple. Be in the business of making things great. Now, I think I have a struggle sometimes with perfectionism, and it can be difficult for me to delegate because I want to control things. I want to do it myself because I feel like I can do it the best. Now, this pursuit of perfection is not that. This is not hoarding your tasks because you feel like nobody else can do it like you. This is the opposite, really. It's encouraging this mindset of perfection with the people that you work with, so that not that they can not make mistakes, but so that they can achieve things, to push the envelope, to be able to produce things that are as good as they can possibly be. Now, Bob has a lot of great stories in the book about working for different bosses when he was at the ABC organization, and how some of them maybe rubbed him the wrong way, but they did encourage this approach to making things as good as they can be. So really important to not dwell on the fact that things have to be perfect, but rather to make them as good as possible. And you probably seen this with this show, Be the Bank. Oftentimes we have technical difficulties, or today we're starting 2 hours late because of the sounds in the background here. So things like that, you have to be able to let them wash over you and be able to continue to pursue what you believe is the best output that you can. And it's very important today for developing content and things that stick around forever on the internet, but it's also incredibly important in the intricacies of the note business. For example, your due diligence. You don't want to oversee things that could be potentially very damaging to your investment before you purchase the loan. The due diligence is such an important aspect, and it should be close to perfect so that you don't miss things going into a new acquisition opportunity. It also rears its head with every aspect of creating your systems and your processes and your procedures, because if you don't do them to the best of their ability, those effects compound over time, and you can see your the lack of effort in the beginning just spiral out of control as you continue to put those processes into motion. So let's talk about this next lesson.
Integrity. Nothing is more important than the quality and integrity of an organization's people and its product. A company's success depends on setting high ethical standards for all things, big and small. Another way of saying this is, the way you do anything is the way you do everything.
Love that last sentence. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. And integrity, as I mentioned, it's something that we mention at the beginning of every Mastermind members only call. We talk about having integrity with regards to everyone you work with in this business. And of course, as we've discussed with borrowers, there's that unbalanced power dynamic, but also with counterparties, with investors, with all of the people that you work with, having that integrity is the only way to establish your relationships, the only way to establish your reputation, and the only way to have longevity in this business. So make sure that the decisions you make on a day-to-day basis, they add up to being a person full of integrity, because it's a slippery slope. As soon as you start cutting corners or being dishonest with your counterparties, you can go down that path and quickly ruin your reputation in business and in life. So important. And those are the 10 lessons from Bob Iger, the previous CEO of the Disney organization. I'd encourage you to check out the book. There's a lot of great stories. I'm listening to it on Audible. This is not sponsored by any means, but it's a great place to get information that you wouldn't otherwise. It's sort of interesting in today's world that we think that everything's just on the internet, but really there's things in books that can be applied to our businesses that we wouldn't find anywhere else. So I'm really excited to be able to start applying these principles in a way that I haven't before, to be the best that I can be in business, and of course to present this information to you on the Be the Bank show. So let's take a look around the cameras another time here. Check out the fish, of course. No, there's no fish. How about the birds? Nope, no birds either. So at the time being, we're just gonna get into the next step. Of course, we covered these 10 separate leadership principles. And now we're going to jump into assets for sale. So as I mentioned, we've got a new portfolio out right now, and I'm very excited to share with you this new portfolio. Let me clean that up for you here. We're closing in August of 2022, next month. There's $400,000 of unpaid principal balance available across 5 portfolios of first and second position loans. Each portfolio has an expected pricing guidance of between $33,000 and $38,000. The second liens are priced around 40% of the UPB. The first liens are 51% of the unpaid principal balance. Everything, though, is a fraction of the equity. Now, the senior liens, I believe, are all less than 5%. The price is less than 5% of the property value. And same with the seconds. The pricing is less than 5% of the equity in these deals. So a lot of senior current. Every second portfolio has over 50% senior current loans, and everything's available to the Mastermind members. I sent out the email last week. I sent it out on Monday. These are brand new loans. The Mastermind members have the first look, and they're going to start making offers next week. I believe offers are due next Monday. So if you're interested in checking out this portfolio, please check out the Mastermind group, which I'm about to share a little bit more with you. The Mortgage Note Mastermind. This is my baby. This is what I've been working on for the last year and a half. You know it if you watch this show. The Mortgage Note Mastermind is the best network, the best value, the best community that you can find in this industry. Now we have, this is not accurate. These last 2 seats have already filled up. We're up to $130 per month now for the next 10 seats. We increased the price by $10 for every 10 new members that join. This includes asset purchase opportunities like the loans that are available now. The masterclass video courses, we're doing a quarterly video course included for free with the Mastermind membership for our members. We have private events. We do a Zoom call the first Wednesday of every month. That's next week. We have a vendor database. We have the forums and the activity feed. We cover all of the case studies on this show in more detail. You can see the property addresses and a lot more information there. We have a database of county and state level information. So you can search a zip code and you can see exactly what's going on for note investors in that geography. We've got templates and calculators, Excel, spreadsheets, Microsoft Word, mail merge documents, all sorts of excellent tools for you as a note investor. The aggregated trade desk, where we bring in opportunities from all around the industry so that you can see everything that's available for sale out there. And then, of course, 50% off my consulting rates if you are a Mastermind member. So our masterclass schedule, we've done 2 so far: bulk portfolio due diligence and how to find and close more deals. Those video courses are up on the website for members. And then this is the tentative schedule. We'll do Microsoft Excel for note investors next quarter, and then to wrap up the year with efficient portfolio management. And these could be subject to change if we get some feedback from the group that they want to see a deeper dive in a different topic. So check out the mastermind at FIXnotes.com/mastermind, where you'll find all of these different topics for our members only call recordings. These are all Zoom calls that have been recorded, different members. Some we've done a couple of calls bringing in outside experts, but we've got a lot of awesome experts within the group and they present things on that call. So this is the most accurate version. 10 seats left at 130 per month, and we go up to 140 per month. All right, so that is it for these little sales pitch here, and we're gonna get into case studies, which is such an important part of the call. It really allows us to put what we've learned into motion to see how it all shakes up when we're actually talking about an actual deal. So this first loan is a non-performing second secured by a single-family residential property that was resolved through a discounted payoff. The payoff was $37,500, and this was resolved, as I said, through a discounted payoff, which means the borrower paid less than the amount owed, which was $49,733. The property securing this deal was $176,000. The senior lien was about $131,000, which leaves us $45,000 of equity. So you can see that it's slightly underwater, not by much, around $4,000 is short here. The combined loan to value is slightly more than 100%. And we always ask these three questions: what happened, where are you now, and what do you want to do? That frames our conversation with the borrower so that we can act with integrity and thoughtfulness and fairness as we approach this borrower situation to resolve it in a way that makes sense for everybody. So this borrower is a disabled veteran. The co-borrower made contact with us. The borrower doesn't communicate very well, so in this case, their spouse reached out to get this deal done. The initial offer from the borrower was $15,000 to settle the account in full. So we rejected that. Now, there is this balance here where you want to be fair. And in our case, $15,000 was not a fair deal. They had $45,000 of equity in the property. So we made a counter offer, $38,733. So we really just gave them $11,000 of a discount, and they countered, and we ended up at $35,000. That discounted payoff was good through November of the year, and this was last year, and the borrower missed the deadline. So they reached out, they explained why, they talked about how they could probably get it done by the end of the year, and who would have thunk? We did, that they would get it done by December for slightly higher, $37,500. So in this case, an extra month cost them $2,500, and it made us a little bit more on the deal. So it was a win-win because they got that extra time, and we were able to be compensated with an additional $2,500. So that's how they settled this deal. They took advantage of the discounted settlement offer, and they paid off the loan for $12,000 less than they were owed. So great win-win here. They saved money. We made money on the deal, which you'll see in just a minute. We spent $18,500. So that's only 37% of the unpaid principal balance, and we settled it for much more than that. It took only 5 months, $455 of expenses, and we achieved that payoff. So some takeaways here. First of all, the borrower initial offer set the stage for the rest of the negotiations. So first counter is really the modification. Well, you have $15,000 available. Let's put that into a down payment and start a monthly payment plan. We'll apply the $15,000 to the $49,000 that you owe. That'll get paid down dollar for dollar, and then we'll start a modification agreement on the remaining amount owed. Now, they really push back on that. They're like, we're at retirement age. We want to get this loan paid off. And they actually had some additional capital available. So here's another one. For positive equity deals, here's the language you use. If they offer you a discounted settlement that doesn't make sense for this offer, for this specific asset, tell them discounted payoffs are reserved for the borrowers in the most desperate situations. And fortunately for you, you have equity in this property. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to pursue a discounted settlement on this deal. It's a really easy way to break it to them that they're actually in a much better situation than a lot of other borrowers that we work with. And the borrowers that we're able to cut the biggest deals for are the borrowers who need it the most. So by spinning your counter offer into something that shows them the benefits that they have within the property, the equity that's available to them, and that we do help borrowers out. And we did offer a settlement here that was on a discount because the equity position wasn't 100%. There was $2,000 that were, $4,000 that was underwater here. So we're able to cut them a slight discount. Now, the balance of the time and the cost of foreclosure against collecting a lump sum payoff is important to calculate when you're making these decisions. So if you're able to share a small discount with the borrower to create an amicable win-win resolution instead of paying attorneys and taking a lengthy foreclosure process, do it. It makes a lot of sense for everybody. The borrower saves money, you get the deal done faster. Your time value of money, when you're calculating your internal rate of return, is improved by not spending more to collect an extra $4,000. It doesn't make sense. So in this case, we decided to take that discounted settlement because it made a lot more sense than spending thousands of dollars in foreclosure and take months of time to end up with the property or with a full payoff before the sheriff's sale. So the internal rate of return on this deal, 246%. Since it only took 5 months and we almost doubled our money here, it was a very, very good return to see that recapitalized and then deployed into new assets. You can really generate an excellent internal rate of return over the course of the rest of the year. And the next case study, non-performing first lien secured by single family residential property. This one was sold. It's a loan sale. We haven't done one of these in a while. Sold for $13,000. So what are we talking about here? The fair market value was $30,000, no taxes owed. Equity is $30K then because this is a first position lien, and they owe $25,185. So we bought this loan for $2,500, a very, very affordable loan. It was purchased in bulk. The pricing that you'll see on the secondary market, obviously, as you can see, we sold it for $13,000, is definitely not here. And we'll see why in a minute. So what happened in this case? Where are you now, and what do you want to do? So what happened? The borrower has dementia, no longer owns the property. Pretty tough situation, and it appeared to be unsecured. When they don't own the property, when you see that the name on title to the home in question is not the same name as on your spreadsheet of mortgage loans, then that loan is unsecured and potentially not enforceable through foreclosure anymore. But we found out through further research that the individual on title with a different last name, that threw us off, is actually the borrower's son and is living in the property. So it appeared to be unsecured. That's why we got such a good deal on the loan. But further research shows that there is a quitclaim deed. QCD is a quitclaim deed as opposed to a warranty deed, which is subject to our lien. Now, a warranty deed is a transfer of the property with title insurance where you've got some confirmation that there isn't any liens still attached to it, but a quitclaim deed can be transferred subject to the lien. Now, since this was a transfer from a mother to her son, she transferred using a quitclaim deed, which the mortgage was still owed here. So at this point, we thought maybe it'd be a payoff or a payment plan, and we started the negotiations with the borrower, but the property ended up being in much worse shape than expected. So it still is worth close to $30,000, but definitely a situation where we wouldn't want to pursue foreclosure and take back the property, which would be kind of the alternative plan if we're not able to get a payoff or a payment plan in place. So in this case, we found an attorney a note investor who's local to this area. And since we didn't make any progress towards the resolution within a whole year after our initial contact, we marketed the loan for a sale. And that was a 31-month process. So this one is definitely not the type process that you'd want. This case study should serve as somewhat of a cautionary tale to make decisions quickly. Like Bob Iger told us, be decisive with your action. Don't let it go on for 31 months, paying $820 across the servicing expenses over that time and the other costs associated with due diligence. So we did end up selling for $13,000, which is great. And the takeaways here: first of all, do the additional research to confirm the secured or unsecured status. Check out episode 29 of Be the Bank for more information on doing that process and understanding the false positives and false negatives that might occur. In this case, it was a false negative. It was actually secured, but we thought it was negative. We thought it was unsecured because of the different last name on title. Now, set and enforce deadlines. This is where the cautionary tale part comes in. Drive the resolution forward with follow-up and make sure you set deadlines with your borrowers so that you're able to move to the next step of the process and not just let it linger as we did on this one. That was my bad, to be honest. Now, share collection progress, contact history, share all of the information you can with potential buyers, because the less uncertainty, the greater the sale price. This is such an important lesson if you're selling loans, because any uncertainty that lingers in a buyer's mind is going to result in pricing fades and discounts and I need a better deal. But if you're able to share that we're in touch with the borrower is living in the property, all of this information is able to be processed by the investor in a way that they can understand the risks associated and the potential outcomes and pay you the best possible price. So important. And that wraps up case study number 91 after we talked about the internal rate of return of 162%. So because we bought it at such a steep discount, it did cover up some of the mistakes we made with letting this loan linger for 31 months. So even with that long delay, we were able to make a positive internal rate of return. All right, so that's it for case study number 91. And let's talk about, that's it for the call. That's everything. Vendor reviews, assets for sale, case studies, all of that and more on the Be the Bank show last Wednesdays, every single month from me at FIXnotes. So sorry about that somewhat anticlimactic finish here, but just wanted to say, of course, as always, that I'm so happy to present this show to you every week, and it's awesome meeting all the viewers. So if you'd like to get on a consultation call with me, that is the giveaway that we offer at the end of every episode. You go to robbymax.youcanbook.me and you can get on my schedule for a 15-minute free consultation. I'll help you through any aspect of your note investing career that you're getting into, or maybe help understand the next steps for you to start this business. And I think it's a great opportunity to get into the note space at this point. So that is it. I'm going to flip through. There's no birds, unfortunately. And, that's me. Hi. There's no fish either. But I will say, we're going to go outside. We're going to feed the fish. That'll be it to wrap up today's episode of Be the Bank. Please tune in next month, the last Wednesday of the month. We'll have another awesome topic related to the note industry for you. We've taken a high-level approach these last few weeks, so I hope maybe we'll drill down. I don't have a topic in mind, so please leave a comment below if you have a topic suggestion, and we'll drill into something really tactical and interesting on the note investor front, as opposed to these higher-level mindset conversations that we've had for a couple weeks. So that's it. Let's go see the fish. So sad news. Maybe the fish don't want any food right now. Sometimes there's some predators out there, a heron, a hawk, a raccoon, a fox, and they get a little spooked for the rest of the day if they see one of those guys in the morning. So maybe they just don't want to have a snack right now. And no birds either. So it's just me today, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.